You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal from somewhere beyond the status quo, here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. If you are struggling to start your business or scale your business, then you probably can get inspiration from people who have been there and done that and bought the t-shirt. Why make all the mistakes yourself when you can learn from the mistakes that other people have made? And that's really what makes entrepreneurship such a great adventure. One of the adventurers that we can learn from is here with us today. I'm speaking with Mike Michalowicz. He is the author of Profit First, Surge, The Pumpkin Plan, and his newest release, Clockwork. By his 35th birthday, Mike had founded and sold two companies, one to private equity and another to a Fortune 500. Today, he is running his third multi-million-dollar venture, Profit First Professionals. Mike is a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the former business makeover specialist on MSNBC. Over the years, Mike has traveled the globe speaking with thousands of entrepreneurs, and he's here today to share the best of what he has learned. Mike, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Hey, Ralph, it's a joy to be here. And you mentioned in the intro, for the entrepreneurial journey where you've been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. I think I've bought the t-shirt over and over again.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is I have great respect and admiration for people who take their mess and turn it into their message. So you've had a lot of success, which is interesting, but even more interesting is the journey. How did you get to where you are now? What's your story?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. Started a business nearly immediately after college, and had some success. Now, let me just kind of gauge that. The business was never profitable. It was a check-to-check survival for the longest time. I had success in that I sold it to private equity, started a new business in computer crime investigation, and that was acquired by a Fortune 500 called Robert Half International. Only 2.5 years into it. That business, too, was never sustainably profitable running it. It was only when I sold it. So I got this mentality of to make a living, I need to pump and dump businesses. And to make a substantial living, I need to pump and dump many businesses. So my third business, which I conveniently leave off the resume, was as an angel investor. I started 10 different companies simultaneously, had no right to be in that space, had no clue. I was chock full of both arrogance and ignorance, which is a deadly combination. and I wiped out all my wealth. I blew every dime I had, and did that in a mere 2 years. And that was my awakening, because I got a call from my accountant. He said, "Mike, I never thought I'd say this to you as a professional, but it's my recommendation that you declare bankruptcy," something which I never did. I didn't feel my creditors were responsible for my errors and my arrogance, but I did lose my house over it. I lost my possessions. We had to start from ground zero, and it was devastating. But I'm now grateful for that period of time, because what happened is that the arrogance I had was torn out of me. I realized I didn't know much about entrepreneurship, and I also felt that I could now start from ground zero, a new journey on figuring out what I'd done wrong, to simplify it and to challenge the standard entrepreneurial notions and beliefs, and decided to become an author. So that was 11 years ago. I became an author and decided to try everything I can to simplify entrepreneurship for myself, but also for others. And so today I'm a full-time author. I do have an equity stake in multiple businesses, but they're run by very competent, more competent than me people, and I just go out and try to learn more and more about the businesses that I own and other businesses, find ways to simplify it, write books about it, and do that again and again and again.
Very exciting. Now, the tagline on your website is intriguing. Entrepreneurship made simple. Why is business so complicated? And what is the the wisdom behind your simplicity?
I think entrepreneurship is complicated, well, for many reasons. But I think a predominant reason is I think it's human nature to bring complexity to things. Like, if it's easy, why isn't everyone doing it? Is a common belief, right? If it's really that easy, why doesn't everyone do it? And I'm not saying entrepreneurship is that easy, but it does get confused with simple. Simple simply means that there's succinct solutions or ways to drive your business forward. It doesn't mean it's easy. It requires effort. But one example, and I read about it in Profit First, is that many entrepreneurs have been told and believe that profit comes last. It's the bottom line. And I found in my own business and businesses I've worked with that for many businesses it never happened. And I started to say, well, what's the cause behind this? And what I've concluded is when we're told something, in this case, comes last, profit comes last, the bottom line, it's human nature to say it's insignificant or it can wait. So for most of us, profit is something we only consider at the end of the year. We're lucky if we consider it once a quarter. And so a way to simplify this is, I said, well, let's just take our profit first. Basically, it's the pay yourself first principle. We take the money out first, transfer the money to a hidden account from ourselves. We take that profit and run our business off the remainder. And I'm very blessed now. Many businesses, over 150,000, have implemented this strategy. As we've made documented case studies, they're way more successful. It simplifies the process from trying to figure out how do we drive more profit, what do we need to cut costs, what do we need to do. Simply taking your profit first, and then your business, quote unquote, speaks to you, and you have to make sure that the business expenses comply with what's left over. So this is one example of taking something that's perceived as more complex and simplifying it.
I really like that example, and it reminds me of that great little parable book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and that's the principle. Yeah. Pay yourself first. You've applied it to business in a very neat way. So we pay the profit in the business first to ourselves, which is the whole purpose. Right. And then I would imagine whatever is left over is what we have to work with. And that really simplifies the decision-making process when you're trying to figure out, well, do we need more people? Can we afford the people we have? Do we need to buy more real estate? Can we afford the assets we have? You're thinking, because you have simplified the process, putting the profits first. It really sharpens your thinking and makes the decisions coming after that a lot more focused, doesn't it?
It does. And it allows you to default to what I find to be the typical nature of most entrepreneurs. So when I go and I speak to audiences, I'll ask them by a show of hands, I'll say, who here does bank balance accounting? And what I mean by that is we don't necessarily look at the accounting system, the income statement and the cash flow and the balance sheet. Instead, we log into our bank account, see what balance we have, and then based upon our balance, we make a decision. I have money, I can spend it. I don't have money, we need to sell something. And people, I would say 90% of the room raises its hand. A few people have the alligator clause. They're embarrassed to admit it. But what I discovered is that's the human nature or the standard nature of most entrepreneurs is to do bank balance accounting. And so what I argue is instead of trying to change yourself, trying to master accounting, go back to school for that. If you're already logged into your bank account, let's set up a system at your bank account that naturally intercepts your natural behavior. So we set these accounts at your bank. It's like the richest man in Babylon, the envelope system. Mm-hmm. So when money flows into your business, we divide the money up. Instead of having one account and saying, I have say $10,000 came in. I have $10,000 to spend. A part of that gets carved up into profit. A part of it carves up into tax reserves because we're going to have some tax liability. Part of it gets carved up into the pay of the owner, which is different than profit. Profit is a shareholder reward. Owner's compensation is compensation for being an owner-operator. Part of it goes to operating expenses. And now what happens is with this money carved up, when you log into your bank account, you immediately know what money is available for what purpose, and it triggers more prudent responses. One other thing, to your point, is you talked about, now you have to work within the confines of your expenses. We have a simple rule. Once you carve up money this way and take your profit first, if you don't have enough money to pay your bills, that's your business telling you you can't afford your bills, meaning that there's too much expense going on. We need to cut expenses, or there's not enough margins. We need to increase margin. And that's the two ways to sustain the profitability that you're taking first.
I really love that. And I notice on your website, you've got testimonials from people we would all recognize, but the one that jumps out at me is the one that I quote all the time, which is Michael Gerber. And he is kind of the, I guess, the godfather of Rebelpreneur Radio, even though he doesn't
look like it, right? The way
yeah, especially with the fedora he's wearing now. But he added that accoutrement to his attire a few years back. But I knew him, or had heard of him back in the days of when he was really touting IBM and the blue suit and the red tie, and that's how he dressed. His mantra is kind of the inspiration for our show, which is build the business you need for the life that you want. And I'll always remember something that he said, which sounds very much like the things that you're teaching and the simplicity of it, that your business you either design your business to give you more life, or it will take the life that you've got. And what you're describing is some very simple processes for simplifying the business so that it performs and does what we want it to do. Now, the question is, I think, for our listeners who are at different stages of growth, they're either in a startup stage and a wannabe stage, or maybe they're at it, as Gerber would say, working in the business instead of on the business. And then they get a hold of your books and your materials, and they think about scaling. The question is, does this envelope system and pay yourself first, does it work for larger companies? Right now, you're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar venture. Is it working at that level as well as it does at the small business level? Yeah.
So like I said earlier, we've 150,000 plus businesses that have implemented Profit First, and by the end of this year, we're anticipating about 200,000 businesses have implemented it. So we've seen every industry, and we've seen most sizes. So when I say most sizes, we've seen it implemented in micro business, that's sub-million, no problem. Businesses between 1 and 10 also doing it. So when businesses get bigger than 10 million, that they often bring in a controller or CFO, they need more sophisticated financial management. And they start implementing Profit First in a new fashion, which is interesting. These over $10 million companies sometimes will have departments. We actually have one public company approach us that would want to use Profit First, and here's how they did it. They would sell a product. They would go to the product manager, so they have these different divisions, and say the order they get is $1 million. They would go to the project manager and say, you have an $800,000 order, make it profitable. What they did is they already took out the 20% of profit. Now, in the past, they used to go to these project managers and say, here's $1 million, make it profitable. And the project manager would post a 5% profit, for example. Now, it's the exact same project manager, the exact same product, effectively. But instead of saying it's $1 million, they take the 20% off, give it to the project managers, they make it profitable, and they still do it 5%, which simply points to the fact that these businesses, even with these sophisticated metrics and all this monitoring, people are still running it. And people, unfortunately, not fall victim, but we complied, maybe is a better word, with this concept called Parkinson's law. And so this is a behavioral theorem. Profit First is all based upon behavioral theory. And Parkinson's law was a behavioral theorem saying that as a resource expands its availability, it's human nature to make or to consume more of it. So if we're going to eat dinner together and I give you a 15-ounce or 16-ounce steak to eat versus a 6-ounce steak, the bigger steak, you're going to eat more meat is the default of humans. More served, the more we consume. Well, it's true for money too. The more money made available, the more we consume. And so by constraining how much money is available to spend on the operations of a business, no surprise, we have to comply with that. So even these bigger corporations have implemented it in a unique way and driven more profitability for their division.
Very exciting. You are an author of several books, as well as a speaker and consultant. What are you working on right now that's got you really excited that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Wow, thank you, Ralph, for offering. I'm particularly ecstatic about my newest book, which isn't even going to come out until the spring of 2020, so April 2020. The manuscript is done. I just work with a mainstream publisher that goes through its machinations that take time. The book title is called Fix This Next. And here's the hypothesis. I believe that the biggest challenge facing entrepreneurs of all size is that they don't know what their biggest challenge is. In other words, most entrepreneurs are reverting to apparent issues, the stuff that's immediately in front of them, the urgent issues. And so therefore, most entrepreneurs are trying to fix everything in their business simultaneously and experience the frustration of the business taking 2 steps forward but 3 steps back. So in this book, what I developed is effectively a compass. It's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and different behavioral theorems. That's a side passion of mine is behavioral theory. And what it does is it pinpoints the most vital need a business has that the person needs to work on next. And by sequencing this process, we tackle the big impactful issue after big impactful issue, and the business will move forward very rapidly. So that's what I'm working on and excited about.
That does sound exciting, and because we could spend a lot of time spinning our wheels, and you see this happening, I guess, at all levels of business, where, for example, a small business owner, he or she becomes obsessed with their logo or with their brand, whatever that is, and, right. And they haven't even made their first sale yet. So based on your approach that you reveal in the book, you're saying stop spending so much time spending problems that aren't really the next big problem or the biggest thing you need to be worried about.
Yeah. I chuckled about the logo because I was that guy. Like my first company, I spent $1,000. That was my budget for the entire business on making a killer logo. And it did nothing. It sold not a single product. And I think not a single person besides myself can remember what the logo looked like. It was irrelevant, but I thought it was highly relevant. It was a apparent issue, apparent opportunity for me, but totally misdiagnosed. So if we tackle the most important issues in sequence, we do well. So here's an example. With a brand new startup, inevitably, the first sale is what's the most important. So we need to concentrate there. We need a client on board. And it's not even about making money as much as building a reputation in the beginning. No one wants to be the first. Like, could you imagine going to a heart surgeon says, I've never done surgery before. Do you want to be my first patient? It's like, I think I'll pass on that. So that's just true for our business, too. I was selling computer systems. To go to a company and say, do you want to be my first computer install? I've never done this before, is a major risk. So it's building our reputation very quickly. How do we do it? And I put that strategy in the book. But once you have that, then it's about building repeatable, sustainable sales. Some people and businesses jump immediately to like the impact and legacy they want to have. They want to change the world. They want to be of service to our community, which are wonderful, beautiful things. But if you don't have the oxygen coming into your business of sales, you're gonna die of lack of oxygen while you're trying to feed the world. So it is this priority in a specific sequence that we need to address for a business to be successful. And the other thing I found interesting as I was researching and writing this book, and it takes me like 3 to 5 years to do these. It's not like it's an overnight project. As I was researching, I found that many businesses take 2 or 3 steps forward, but then by necessity have to take a step or 2 back and build the foundation stronger. So the belief that we're climbing a ladder in our business, just keep on aspiring and achieving higher levels, I think is a fallacy. You climb a little bit, you do some work at that next level, but then you got to step back down, build a stronger foundation, step back up, build on the foundation you've built, and kind of volley back and forth between levels deliberately in a way that builds the foundation in order to build a business that's very healthy and can continue to grow.
Great. Wonderful wisdom. I've been speaking with Mike Michalowicz. He's the author of Profit First, Surge, The Pumpkin Plan, his latest release, Clockwork, and then his new upcoming book that we are all looking forward to. Mike is a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the former business makeover specialist on MSNBC. Over the years, Mike has traveled the globe speaking with thousands of entrepreneurs. If you want to find out more about Mike and what he has learned and how you can apply that to you and your business, whatever the size, visit MikeMichalowicz.com, and we will have that website posted on the Rebelpreneur website as well. Mike, thank you so much for your time today, and I appreciate you being on Rebelpreneur Radio.
Ralph, it's been my joy. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.